Hi, welcome back to the Manufacturing Come Up, where we go and dig deep into people's backstory and find out how they got to where they're at in the industrial automation industry and manufacturing industry. And we have an awesome guest here today, somebody who's been growing out their channel with TwinCAT, which is a very niche target audience and it's helping out a lot of people in that space. So today we have Jakob Sagatowski. I can't pronounce the name for anything, so we'll let Jakob pronounce his name for himself.
You actually pronounced it quite well. Jakob Sagatowski.
Yeah, I don't got the proper tongue for it, I don't think.
That's fine. I don't think I would say your name better, actually. So it's all fine.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's really fun to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, you've been doing quite a bit. Like the premise of this channel. We want to dig in. We want to get your backstory and kind of how you got to where you're at today, and also some different tips that you have for other people that are getting into this industry. Manufacturing as a whole doesn't have to be necessarily automation, but yeah, we just let's go ahead and dive in. And if you would give us a brief summary of where you're at in life right now, so people have an understanding of what they can accomplish.
This episode of the Manufacturing Come Up is sponsored by Elite Automation.
Elite Automation is a systems integrator specializing in robotic weld cell applications, and especially the design and manufacturing of the weld fixture.
If you have any robotic weld cell needs, you can reach us at rfq@eliteautomationusa.com.
Yes. So right now I'm running my own business. So I've been primarily working with helping customers with their industrial automation projects. So I'm running my own business basically.
Awesome. And so are you doing like capital projects? Are you just doing programming gigs, or what type of things are you doing?
Whatever is required. It's primarily programming. So it's mostly programming on different PLC platforms, but also helping with a little bit of electric work. But even though this is where I have very basic knowledge, but as with industrial automation, you're doing a little bit of everything, but primarily it's programming.
Gotcha. Do you have any core focus PLCs that you're working on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm mostly based on Codesys platforms, and especially in TwinCAT 3. So I thought initially that this wouldn't be enough, to be such a tiny niche, but I have enough work to do actually, even with this, only with TwinCAT 3, I would say. So definitely mostly Beckhoff.
Gotcha. Yeah, we have one guy on our team that's actually really strong at Beckhoff. Yeah, and I think it also too, like just the fact that you focused at one thing, it has made it to where you're able to actually touch people who are trying to work in that same common platform, and it positions you as an expert in the industry. You're probably putting out more content on the internet than anybody else for TwinCAT 3 content.
Yeah, I mean, the disadvantage I realize is, when you work so much with one platform and you get out on the field and you encounter some other platform, then you feel a little like, shit, it's not, it quickly gets outside of your comfort zone. So I like to be specialized, but, my general recommendation for people, anyone actually wanting to get into the industry, and this is what I say to new people, is like, try to get a little broader picture. Just work a little bit with everything, because it's also good, because there's no platform that's the best, that has, I mean, okay, I have opinions, of course, like which one I prefer, but there's platforms that have, everyone has their ups and downs, and this is what's nice with working with, maybe not answering your question, but I definitely think you should work with just having one platform as your specialty.
Yeah, I think especially at first, because that's one thing that kind of, like, I'd say it was a blessing and a curse in my career. I also have a controls engineering background, and I did more with Allen Bradley than anything else. But I programmed like Proface, Automation Direct, some Siemens, a little bit of everything, Mitsubishi, Omron. And so, I at least had like one or two projects of all these different PLCs. And it would just, it's a lot harder whenever you go to do the programming and you've never done any programming in that platform before, right? Some of the things that take you 5 minutes in another PLC takes you an hour to figure out how to do the same function.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I should mention, I mean, the base core principles is the same across all platforms, right? And in some instances, you even recognize yourself. I mean, again, going back to the thing I mentioned about codices, if you work with codices, if you work on one platform, it's super easy to jump on another one. Even some of the windows and everything look identical. So it's there's lots of the things are just the same.
Gotcha. You tell us where you're calling us from today.
I'm from Munich in Germany right now. So
nice.
Quite,
maybe we'll have to pay you a visit one day.
Yeah, or the other way around, preferably. I haven't been traveling for a while now, so I really want to go and to the other side of the pool, so to speak.
Have you been to the U.S. before?
Yeah, many times. I mean, when I was young, really? I did all my summer vacations. So in Europe, we have this long in Sweden. I've been living in Sweden most of my life, and there I have 5 or 6 weeks of vacation, and then I always went on this super long 5-week road trips to the States. I rented a Ford Mustang and then just drove around everywhere. So I love it, and that's why it's a little annoying that I haven't been there for a while now.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that story. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess now if you'll take us back as far as you're willing to take us back, even if you want to go as far back as like when you were a child, because I think those things are important to know. Like, how were you growing up? Were you doing anything at all in this space? Did you like computers? Did you not like, where you just had nothing to do with it? My personal backstory is I didn't really do anything. I barely knew how to operate a computer 15 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. No. This is really an interesting question. This is actually something I ask everyone when I work with them. How did you get into this? And this basically everyone has a different story. I mean, I was very lucky. So when I was a child, so we're talking early 80s, mid 80s, I really wanted a computer. My parents couldn't afford one, but I just talked to them, please buy me a computer. Eventually they bought me one. So I started out with something called the Commodore 64. I don't know if you're old enough, you probably know what type of computer this is. It's a very primitive and basic thing. But so this is the way I started out. I got into computing very early in my life, and I'm very thankful for this, because I didn't know it back then in the 80s. I didn't know about it, but then I kind of it's made my life so much easier working in this, because there's lots of jobs, lots of opportunities and everything. So, but that was my backstory, and then I just continued working with software development, basically with traditional software development, so not industrial automation whatsoever. And then I got a PC in the early 90s, and then the whole thing with the web came to be a big thing in Sweden. We got very good infrastructure for the web, luckily for me. And then I started working with the web, and then I thought, oh, this is really fun working with this. Industrial automation came much later, but computers have just always been there in the background. So,
what type of programming, what type of things were you programming in the very beginning?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I mean, we're talking mid 90s. It was I was doing lots of web programming, because as you remember, the web, everyone wanted to do the web in the 90s. It's like a web, and there was just a huge demand for doing web. I mean, it still is. But it was very much different then. And then it was just basic web programming. So in that instance, I was doing something called PHP, ASP, and lots of these web scripting languages. After that, I started working with C and C++. So because then I got into the defense industry, and then I discovered that, hey, it's so fun to work, close to the metal, to work with real machines that you can actually, the web, you couldn't touch anything,
Yeah.
While with the defense industry, it was just stuff you could really touch and move on. And that's kind of what got me into industrial automation, because that was even more fun, with industrial. And so so that's mostly the traditional languages, C, C++, Java, Python, and various web languages. Gotcha. I mean, it's all, yeah.
What age were you around that time?
I was a teenager, early 20s. So
really nice.
Yeah. So this was teenager, early 20s, and up until 30s, and so awesome. That was.
And about what age did you start to find automation, and how did that happen?
That was quite fun. I was I was sitting on a train. I this was 10 years ago, so I was my mid-30s or something, and I was sitting on a train and just reading, and then a job came about that showed that was really interesting, and I went there on an interview, and they talked to me about we use PLCs, and I was like, what is a PLC? I have no idea what a PLC was. I really literally had no idea what a PLC was, even though I've been doing software for over 20 years. I never heard about the PLC. And they were like, do you know what it is? And I was like, that's no problem. And I'm like, of course, I obviously failed on the test and everything, but still they gave me a chance. And then I discovered, the world of industrial automation. And I was hooked. I was like, how can I have missed this all my life? This is so much fun, because then suddenly I could do software like I loved to do, but I could get really, really close to the hardware, and just see the stuff. I love, how it is working with robots and motion control. You just see stuff moving and vibrating and making noises, and it's just. I guess I'm not answering your question, but that's.
This episode of the Manufacturing Come Up is sponsored by Elite Automation.
Elite Automation is focusing on AMR technologies. AMRs are autonomous mobile robots used in your facility to transfer goods or products from one side of your facility to the other.
This is a super powerful tool, and it's a new piece of technology that us as systems integrators can utilize as a tool to leverage your company to be more advanced than the next company and be able to automate systems that at one point were not able to be automated.
If you have any AMR needs, you can reach us at rfq@eliteautomationusa.com.
No, I mean, I definitely, I'm glad that you're mentioning it, because like that's one of the biggest things for me. Like I love industrial automation, and it's like, honestly, I don't know that I could ever do anything else different, because it's just, I don't know, like you said, it's the movement of things, right? When you start to do all the programming, all the electrical wiring, all the mechanical engineering, all the things that go into it, and you're involved in a project from the beginning, and then you get to see it deployed at the end and actually picking up something or moving something or welding or whatever it may be. Like
exactly. And more importantly, much more importantly, is that it's not just software, it's all the other skills, that I see people with so many variety of skills. I see people with electrical background, you have people with mechanical engineering background, you have clean pure automation engineers, you have the operators, so the operators work in the systems, and it's just such a nice mix of people. But my old jobs, then it was much more narrow. It was really software, and sometimes I didn't even see the end user. I had no idea who the end user was. It was there was just many layers between me and the end user. Here I get much closer to everything else as well. So, and that's another thing that I love with industrial automation. And
Awesome. So did you go to school for anything industrial automation related, or how did that transpire?
No. I have a master's in computer science. So I'm really a pure traditional programmer, computer science, no industrial. As I told you, when I found this job and I applied for it and I got to the interview, and I've never heard about PLCs. So I really, I have the traditional software backgrounds in that
Gotcha.
Well, but I mean, which one sense kind of also says that you can get into this industry in many different ways.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And also too, the a software computer science degree is probably one of the best degrees outside of anything automation related for the industry if you're going to be a programmer. In reality, I think that like anybody who's going to be a controls engineer should do a little bit of like structured text programming and some type of computer programming first before going into robotics, just so they have like better programming practices. I see a lot of individuals that just don't have the best programming practices. Like they can make things work, and in all reality, like I'm a really good programmer, but I'm a really good programmer because I can get things done. I'm not a really good programmer because my code's always beautiful.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing. But it's also the other way around, I would say. So I fully agree with everything you say. But one thing that I'm missing a lot, coming from the computer background, is when I'm on the manufacturing floor, or if I'm somewhere looking and have a problem, if I need to do electrical work, I feel completely disabled. I have no idea what to do, and this is something I'm missing. I wish I had. So. but that's at the same time one of the best things with industrial automation, that there's just so many things you can specialize in many things, but there's also many things you can just learn a little bit about, just to be able to get the job done. Not just software, but also all the other. I mean, I didn't care about mechanical engineering whatsoever, but now when I see people, I'm interested. SolidWorks, how does this work? Is this how it works? It's just so much stuff that and I mean the learning process. That's the absolute best thing about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it helps individuals a lot too. That like if you're going to be a programmer, that you learn some type of like physics or mechanical engineering, or just even if it's some classes, right? So that way you can have like at least some intuitive knowledge of things. Like I notice some of the programmers that struggle the most, that are like good programmers, are programmers who like don't know how to turn a screwdriver.
Yeah.
They can program really, really well, but they've never turned a screwdriver. So then whenever it comes to like anything mechanical, like they don't understand like torques and like gear ratios and things like that. And then it becomes hard for them to adapt those skills to mechanical units.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a fair point, because that's also something, just starting to work with industrial automation. If you're a software developer, you will have to do, if you're going to work with motion control, you will have to learn the stuff, about, the mechanical aspects, and, getting an axis to move, and it's, about gear ratio and making sure. I mean, there's lots of the things I really didn't care the slightest about. And now working with this, then you're just forced to at least getting to scrape on the surface of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, say for instance, like with robots, it's easier on the robot side of things because all the kinematic stuff has already been done.
Yeah.
But if you're doing some type of like servo system, there's a lot of configuration that needs to go into that.
Exactly.
Assistance.
Exactly. And if it doesn't work, it's quickly very obvious, which I like. I mean, I like the fast feedback cycle you get with industrial automation. If you're connected to the machine, and you instantly get feedback when something isn't working. You push a button and you get something back. It makes a strange sound. You have to make some adjustments.
I don't know why that robot crashed.
Exactly. Definitely. Yeah.
So you got hired onto this position were they systems integrator?
No, this was a pure software developer. Actually, they wanted someone just to take the responsibility for the software architecture in this case.
Okay. In the automation space?
Well, it wasn't a clean automation. It was actually a project where we developed. It was an energy system to produce electricity. So it was, well, you can say it was manufacturing because we manufactured electricity, but it was actually quite of an what do you call it? What do you call it when it's a science project, so to speak? It's not
R&D.
Exactly, R&D.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, how long were you with this company here?
I was there for almost 3 years.
3 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, which is a really good time frame, to get into, because you get to work with a little bit of everything. You get to know, get to know about the stuff about PLCs, what PLCs are about, because just the basics, and about motion control, about safety. I mean, safety, I had no idea about the whole safety thing before industrial automation, and now I realize safety is, if you want, you could potentially work only with safety as a full-time job, if you wanted to specialize.
Yeah.
So there's just.
Yeah, I think there's school. I don't recall. I mean, there was like definitely safety. The only safety related stuff that I remember going through was like lockout, tagout.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever like any like risk assessment stuff. And that was actually one of the things that I did throughout my career. Is I did all the risk assessments for all the robotic cells that we outputted for the company that I worked with, and whole other ball game. I mean,
it's, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, just if you go to any industrial automation fair, there's all of this, safety sensors, safety PLCs, and I had no idea about that stuff existed. And it's as you say, you didn't learn so much about the theory, you didn't hear about it, but once you got onto the manufacturing floor, once you got into working into this, you had to take this stuff into consideration and learn it, and take responsibility for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So where did you transition after you spent your 3 years there?
Then I continued working with industrial automation. I went in some tiny various projects. I started actually consulting a little bit myself. Then I I did some minor projects. Then I got into a really big project here in Munich, and that's the reason why I live in Munich now, actually, because so I'm from Sweden, but I moved here for a job, and then I installed Tinder on my phone, and then I met my wife here. so that's why I'm in Munich. So because I got a job. Yeah, so I got a job here working with the European Southern Observatory. They're manufacturing the world's biggest optical telescope for astronomical studies. So I got into the science community a little deeper, and luckily for me, they were doing this project and they needed someone with Beckhoff and TwinCAT 3 experience. So it was just luck. I got the job and stayed there and met my wife, and now I'm stuck here, so to speak. So that was also, and that's interesting, because for me, I always thought like industrial automation, that's just about manufacturing print circuit boards, manufacturing whatever parts for car, just a million things. But here it wasn't like that. Here we had a project that was using PLCs to control mirrors in the telescope that's gonna look at the stars and do science. And through this job, I got into a community with many other people working on other projects, like in CERN with the this big huge machines doing this Nobel Prize science stuff, and they're using PLCs, using standard PLCs like you used to, just in a slightly different way. And that shows the flexibility of the PLCs, that you can adapt it for many use cases, not just manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use them for just about anything.
Yeah. Which is sorry that I interrupt you, but it's what I love about it, because with software development, I think it's a little shame, because with industrial automation you can really work with so much stuff. And I think a lot of software developers, I mean, maybe I'm just talking from the perspective of my friends, but they have a lot of prejudices, like, oh, those PLCs, that's boring stuff. Isn't that when you just flash a card and you put a card in and there's 80s technology? And it's not like that. It's not like
right.
that,
So, yeah, absolutely. Has your programming been mainly like structured text type of programming, or are you doing ladder as well?
Yeah. I've been doing ladder, but mainly structured text, and simply because that's where my comfort zone is at. I mean, I do ladder because I obviously have to. If you work in the industry, you have to do it. But if I have a responsibility for a new project and I have free hands, which most often it's not like that you have free hands, but if I have free hands, I go with structured text. But usually it's how it is. The customer decides and you adapt to it.
Yeah. I mean, my personal opinion with it is I'm better at structured text, or I'm better at ladder logic, but I like structured text better. I've had a lot more experience with ladder, but like your structured text is just so much better of a programming platform in my mind.
Well, it's up and downs. I mean, this is something that actually took me many years to understand about the industry. If you look at the use cases, for me, software development has always been just make the best software possible. Write unit tests and stuff. I'm gonna talk more about that later, but. And then just provide us nice front end for the operators to do fault isolation. But I realized, working in the industry now that it's not like that. You want that as well, but usually a lot of operators use the ladder stuff to do fault isolation, and this is something I have people when I talk about this for software developers, I explain this, and people are, why are you using ladder? Why are you using this graphical stuff? And I mean, I understand. The question is, of course, I understand that you might find it annoying and cumbersome, but this is just how the industry works. And you can't push for your stuff and say this is the best. This is the best. Of course, you have to adapt and make the best out of the industry. So and I mean, with that said, of course, there's stuff with ladder I really don't like. If you're gonna do version control, it gets a little more complicated if you're gonna do version control with ladder compared to a pure clean language. But even today, there's tools that actually help you with this as well. So
gotcha. So whenever you going back to whenever you started this position here, how long did you stick with that, or were you consulting at that point?
No, so you mean the telescope?
Yep.
No, I was hired, so I
Gotcha.
stuck around for around 2 years, more or less, finishing the back of the TwinCAT specific parts, because
Gotcha.
I mean the TwinCAT stuff was just a tiny fraction of the whole system. I mean, we actually had, so this was controlling the power distribution to 132 cabinets powering the primary mirror in the telescope. So it was 132 PLCs, but they were all identical. So you kind of just wrote one piece of software, and then you made sure to clone them to all of them. And that was a limited scope of projects, so it took around 2 years. And the rest of the telescope, is written by traditional software developers. So Python, C, C++, Java, and everything. So and then I thought, should I stay here? But then I couldn't work anymore with industrial automation, and I want to continue working with industrial automation. So and then being a consultant is quite nice.
Yeah. So what was your transition after that then?
I worked for a Swedish company back to manufacturing, doing flexible circuit boards. So this was a very specific machine. It's called dry phase patterning. They're doing a flexible circuit board, but without any chemicals or anything. So it's basically I don't know what it's in English, but it's a machine, and then it has a print, and then it just cuts out everything, and then you get a nice circuit board out of that. So it's a mechanical process. And then that was quite nice for me, because then I got to use this was really good, because then you get close interactions with the operator, how the end user is going to work. So I did a little bit of front end work and stuff like this. And again, going back to the greatness of industrial automation is that, hey, suddenly I could pick and choose a little bit of stuff I didn't know anything about, like operator front end stuff. And that's also something that this is the thing I see with working with other people, other industrial automation engineers, is they write the PLC software, but a lot of them also do the front ends, the buttons and everything on the HMI. It's just a jack of all trades, as you call it in the States, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was definitely, that was like I said, I dealt with all different types of PLC platforms. I also did a lot of the robot programming. I did vision programming, HMI programming. So that was one thing that was definitely unique about my career. I think anytime you work with a smaller systems integrator as well, that like you end up getting stuck doing all different types of programming, especially if you're the type of individual that just picks up on things, okay, I'll do it, whatever, I'll do it. Like that's how I got into risk assessments. I learned electrical engineering, like all these different programming platforms, and it was all just because, okay, whatever, I'll do it. We don't have anybody else to do it, I'll do it, whatever.
But do you have a background in electrical? I mean, did you study any electrical engineering or anything, or?
Not really. I mean, I did get an electrical like certification for my degree, but my degree is my degrees are applied science degrees. They're not even engineering degrees, really, right?
Yeah.
So I did definitely get to learn like the fundamentals of electricity, and also I knew from like back in my past, like I've done all the work on my vehicles up to like a few years ago, like so I understood like troubleshooting some like electrical things and things like that. So I also had like an intuitive knowledge. I did like residential, commercial construction stuff a little bit. So I understood light switches, light bulbs, and fans and stuff like that. So
I'm asking because this is one of the things, my weak points. Every time I have to do some electrical work, I don't dare to touch anything. I know I'm gonna start a fire if I try. So this is just one of the fields I really love to get deeper into. It's just that I actually don't feel quite where to start. I don't know where should I start, to get into the field of electrical. So far it's been a little bit of wiring, and I always look at the guys building the cabinets, and ask them questions, and I look at the electrical drawings just to understand it. I don't know whether this is the right way or if there's another better way to get into this.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like looking at any of the particular projects that you're working on, because like, I mean, say for like all the things that I've electrically engineered, most of the things have been robotic applications. So definitely anything that's involved with like the robot. So like definitely on the older systems, there was like safety relays for all your safety circuits. There was conveyors and VFDs, and in my mind, at least the electrical engineering for what we do, I barely call it electrical engineering, because like a lot of the things have the electrical engineering built into it, right? If you have a VFD, like, now you're doing over Ethernet. So you give the thing it's 480 and you give it, it's 24-volt signal, and then you're good, and there's really not, or if you're doing if it's like Allen Bradley and you have like your STO signals, then if you're doing that as a hardwired connection, but like us as a company now, we try to do everything over Ethernet. So it's CI, and we're using CIP safe everything. So and safety PLCs. So there's pretty much zero electrical wiring going on between like a PLC and a VFD. Whereas before, I mean, you had like, I don't know, maybe like 12 wires, 12, 15, something like that, wires or something that went to a VFD. And now it's just power supply wires, really. And a lot of devices are getting smarter, and that's kind of becoming the case. It's just your power wires, and then like, your other communication protocols like IO link. It's just a single, another single line.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you think about it, there's lots of stuff in if you're using one of the industrial Ethernet protocols, for backup they're primarily using TcUnit, and that's the same there. If you want to do safety, you have the safety in the same wire as the rest of the drive communication. And as you say, IO link. I mean, I get quite happy when I use IO link, because I know if there's a problem, it's just one wire from the IO link master to the IO link slave, and I don't have to care about all this other stuff that is all the variants. There's just one way to wire it. So
absolutely. And I think that like that just makes like the engineering of a project so much easier, both on the install side of things, the engineering side of things, like pretty much every aspect of it. Like you either just have like a bad device or a bad cable, and if you have something like a bad cable, it's like unplug the cable, plug another one in, reroute another one, or because like say for instance, like we try to avoid doing any like hardwired connections. Like generally, like if we have let's say like a conveyor, we'll try to mount like a small enclosure on it, and then just do like an ANT module and run Ethernet from the Allen Bradley PLC to the ANT module. And we try to do that with as much things as possible. I mean, given like sometimes like the cost justification of like we need to run this cable like 5 feet, and sometimes you just hardwire it, but it's become easier. So like I guess going back into like the electrical engineering side of things and like learning that, I would suggest learning like the thing that is the most applicable to the thing that you're going to be doing. Right. So like for us, it's robotic cells. So anybody that's going to join our company that says, hey, I want to learn electrical engineering. So we'll say, okay, here's electrical engineering prints for all these different projects that we have. This one has a KUKA robot, this one has a FANUC robot. Just look at the differences. This one has CIP safe, this one doesn't. This is a discrete connection. And we do, we have to get involved in that because, budget, really. I mean, you look at like a Keyence like CIP safety scanner, you're at like $5,000 for a laser scanner. And I think their non-safety or non-CIP safe one is like $2,000. So sometimes it's hard to get a customer to want to pay that like double the price just to have a CIP safe signal,
Yeah, exactly. It only makes the life easier for you, but for them it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Another big thing that we try to sell the customer on with going CIP safe is the ability to like log in and make edits. And like a lot of the laser scanners, you have to still use like a USB cable. So like being able to program over Ethernet is like nice, and just it's the remote support side of things. Hey, you're having an issue with your laser scanner, like we can log in remotely and like look and see like what's causing this false trigger or something like that.
Yeah, that's quite important. You shouldn't take that for granted, actually. I mean, I think I've been a little spoiled with the connection possibility that I can at any time connect to the customer and help them, but I realize that I'm just born in the right age where I can do stuff like this. I can sit on a train or sit somewhere else at a hotel and do lots of this. Now the last 10 years I've taken it for granted. I do it all the time, but yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's a plague because, maybe you work a little more than you should sometimes because you can always work.
Right. Yeah, you're supposed to be doing dinner with the family. And
exactly. So a USB cable or network cable isn't always better.
Awesome. So so like your transition, okay, so you went and you worked for this other company. What was your next transition?
Yeah, no, then I started to look into starting my own business, because I mean, that was the time. I think that was more or less the time when I started I uploaded my first YouTube video, about TwinCAT tutorial, and that got much bigger response than I thought. I did it as a hobby. I did it a little bit I spent a little bit of time in the beginning as a hobby, and I mean, it is still a hobby. But then a lot of people started contacting me, just saying thank you. But then opportunities started to pop up with people that needed help with their automation projects. So they were thinking about doing a little bit of programming themselves, if they could have someone to just teach them a couple of hours. And I just quickly realized, hey, maybe I should do my own business. And that's when I transitioned into running my company full time.
Awesome. How long ago was this transition?
It's been gradual, but formally full time from 1st of August. So it's this year. So,
oh, really? Congratulations.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, very recently. But before I was doing it part time, but then I actually was more than I should, and so now I enjoy it, because there's enough work in industrial automation. There's just enough work for everyone. It just feels like there's an infinite amount of projects around the corner.
Yeah, there's definitely a ton out there. One thing that, like, for us as a business, and for me myself, one of the things when I started this company, how
long ago was it? Sorry, how long ago? It was
3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah.
And so, like, whenever I started, one of the things that I told myself is I wouldn't do programming support gigs, because like my big vision for the company is I want to be doing capital projects, which is what we do as a company, right? And like making that transition from like a 9-to-5 job into a business owner, right? Like, one of the fears there was that I would start doing a lot of contract work, and I'd be happy with making, $150,000, $200,000 a year or whatever it is, and be like, I don't know about having a whole entire company. Like, let me just keep doing what I'm doing here, just getting like too comfortable with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's, I mean, and yeah, for me, I mean, I'm so new in the game right now. I'm just enjoying the benefits of running my thing, that I can talk with you now. I don't have to take time off work. I can, before calling here, I went with my wife. I went doing groceries. I mean, that's the thing, and especially in programming, doing stuff, the customer doesn't care whether you do it 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or if you do it on a Saturday 9 in the evening. They don't care, as long as you deliver the results. As long as you make them happy, they're gonna it doesn't matter. So
absolutely. Are you doing quite a bit of like remote programming gigs then?
Yeah. It's a few. I mean, it hasn't been so many so far remote, and I mean, everything is remote because I have to remotely connect and do stuff. But so far I'm mostly doing new projects actually, so it's all in the startup phase.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
doing
You're not really having to go on site or anything at the moment though, right?
Sorry, going
on site.
I'm doing that actually. So I'm actually going to Sweden in a couple of weeks. Gonna be there a week on site, and then I'm going to the States in a couple of months.
Nice.
Doing as well. So yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it, because of course I don't want to get too far away from the machines. I don't want to get too comfortable sitting in my home and being lazy. It's very important to be on site. It's very important to meet the operators and meet your customer. And I love doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one big thing. Like, still, like with the company, I try to almost always be like on the customer site. Like, I went to India to do a project install, and like I didn't have to go, but I just want to go, right? I want to go there, be with our team, be with the customer, and just kind of oversee things. I'm at the point with the company now where I don't have to do a lot. Generally, if I'm helping somebody, it's on like some programming thing. But yeah, it's just that fact of like just being in front of the customers, like, and being able to be in the environment and being around the equipment. I think it's a big thing too. Anybody that's looking to get into this industry, like, if you can just somehow find a way to get around the equipment, like you're better off. You're better off. Like if you had a choice of like you're in college, you want to work while you're in college, like don't go work at McDonald's. Go work at like a manufacturing facility.
Yeah,
Go see like the pieces of equipment and try to find a manufacturing facility where they have like assembly equipment or like conveyance systems or like something where you can look at the things, and while maybe you're an operator, that's all you're doing is being an operator at first, but you're being your operator and you're doing whatever your daily task is, but you can look around and you can say, okay, like, oh, here's these conveyors over here doing this, here's, or maybe you get to work with like a little special purpose machine, right? And you put some things in it, you do some two hands, and then the machine has all this actuation that does all these different tests and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's a very important thing you're mentioning, because actually one of the best PLC programmers I've seen are actually they're people that have actually been on the floor. So one of the best ones I know have actually been for a very long time on the floor, just maintaining machines. And then he thought, oh, maybe I should do PLC programming. And when I discuss stuff with him, he has a completely different perspective than me, and I'm a little jealous sometimes of him, because he really knows so much stuff about but have you thought about this and this, and like that would be it's stuff that I should think of before starting to think about the software, and because he has a completely different background perspective, and that's what I'm just constantly mentioning this. I've mentioned it before that it's really automation. Industrial automation is just such a big jack of all trades. You can work with so many different things, and that's one of the good things also. Like, how do you get into industrial automation? And I wouldn't say that there's just one way. You can come with so many different backgrounds and get into it.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. That's as a systems integrator company, like that's one of the biggest blessings that we have, is just the fact that like we can facilitate so many different types of employees, right? And so like whenever we go to talk with like colleges or high schools or something like that, it's like anybody can find a job within our company. Even if you're going to do like HR or something, right? It's there. Like there's all your normal business stuff, and then there's basically every type of like engineering you could probably think about. Maybe we don't do like chemical engineering or something, but
exactly. And I noticed also that people getting into industrial automation, a lot of people are really curious. They maybe start with the electrical, but then get really curious, how do this PLCs work, or the other way around, And I think that this is really fascinating, and it's not something I saw as often in the traditional software industry. Then you really work with your software. You didn't have to touch any of the dirty stuff. You were just in your clean, nice office. Here it's much more, where people wanna broaden themselves more to just software or electrical, and I like it a lot. It probably makes it much easier to hire people as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I definitely think so.
Yeah.
Do you have any last points that you'd like to add that you think would be valuable to the community?
Yeah, actually, in general, I of course want to say I love industrial automation. I really, really like to work with it. And I mean, so just my perspective of it, coming from the traditional software, with a traditional software background, what I love with industrial automation is that it's so easy to get started and going. I can download some tools. I can basically, if I want to create an field bus industrial network, and start to communicate with some IOs, it literally takes me, I do a right click and add an TcUnit master or a Profinet master, whatever. I add some slices, I add some sensors, and it literally takes me. I mean, when I started with it, it took me like 2 or 3 hours to have a running system. That's something it's much easier than working with traditional software development, where just getting a development environment up and running can take days. I mean, if you don't have the right background and knowledge. So with that said, there's a lot of stuff I love about industrial automation, but there's a lot of stuff I hope in the future, and that's going to change. So there's a lot of stuff that industrial automation, that software development, traditional software development has been doing and developing over decades and over a long time, that industrial automation could learn from, about configuration management, version control. And, if I get into a machine, so what often happens, I get into a machine and I'm going to try to find a fault. And getting all the tools and everything can be quite tricky. Sometimes, the project is on a USB stick somewhere, or someone has it on a hard drive. It's a little bit of work for me to get all the tools I need, just to connect to the PLC and get going. And traditional software development, they solved all of these problems about version management and configuration management in general, and they're doing it in a very, very good way. And I'm hoping, of course, that a lot of these practices will come to industrial automation as well. So, and I'm saying this so it's good in both ways. There's lots of stuff in industrial automation that I wish was better in traditional software development, but it's also true the other way around. And but I've seen this started to change already. So I'm really looking forward to this the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, industrial automation is for sure behind in just technology as a whole.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
go ahead.
Yes, sorry. My biggest issue is actually just the fact to get going. I probably gotten close to 1,000 messages from people, contacting me and everything. And a lot of people are, just the thing. They're just happy that they can get going easily. And I think this is something, it really annoys me with industrial automation. It's a lot of pay to play game. You have to pay software licenses. There's a lot of stuff you have to pay just to get going. And a lot of young people, that want to discover what this is about. It's a little tricky. So, I mean,
yeah, that part does definitely suck for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because touching Allen Bradley software, I mean, it's like 5,000 years.
I know. That and that's that's fine for me. I mean, working, I usually let the customer pay anyway, but in one way or another, the customer is obviously going to pay. But if you don't have a customer, if you don't have anyone, you're going to work with. You're 20 years old, you're fresh from university or going to university, and what are you going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of that, it's like, then if you go to like one of the free based platforms, then you're gaining experience on a platform that's not exactly going to apply. Sure, you can learn some ladder and definitely gain some experience, but I am like we talked about in the very beginning of this, like you should go with a platform, stick with it, learn it very well, and build a good fundamental strength on that platform.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Jakob, I'm glad to have you. Where can people find you at?
They can find me, on YouTube. That's number one. So I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jakob Sagatowski. And then I have a website, just sagatowski.com. So it's my last name.com. So it's quite easy. And on LinkedIn, obviously, where there's lots and lots. I mean, I like LinkedIn because you meet a lot of really, really good people there, and with lots and lots of good knowledge. Like we came in contact with each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, LinkedIn is like definitely by far my number one platform. And I'm on like Facebook, but like realistically, like my primary reason for being on like a Facebook is to reach an audience that is not already in like our industry or just in a career path, because like generally most people, I would say, I don't know what the percentage is. I'm actually curious about this now. What the percentage of people who are like career driven and have like career goals who have a LinkedIn versus those who don't have like career goals are on LinkedIn. Because I almost guarantee, like, if somebody doesn't have any like career goals at all, they're probably not on LinkedIn at all.
Yeah.
Definitely love LinkedIn.
And another thing, I mean, what I like with LinkedIn is there's people uploading so many stuff. I'm learning so much stuff, and I'm always trying to look at people that are better than me, know much more, because it's just a lot of stuff you can learn from other people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I definitely advise everybody go check out his channel. He has a pretty big audience for our industry, and definitely making a big impact. And kind of give us a brief description of what your YouTube channel is about.
So my channel is, as you said, it's primarily about TwinCAT 3. So it's primarily about PLC programming in the Beckhoff environment, in the Beckhoff world. So TwinCAT, and simply because this is the platform I've been working on the most. So I have some other stuff on my channel. I mean, my channel has nothing to do with my company. My channel is named Jakob Sagatowski, so it's a private thing. Beckhoff don't pay me anything. Everyone thinks I'm affiliated with Beckhoff. No whatsoever. It's just a private. It's just stuff I've done on my spare time, just trying to share my knowledge with other. Because I mean, again, industrial automation is the most fun thing I know. I love working with industrial automation, and I want more people to enjoy this wonderful industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should get a hold of Beckhoff though. I think they need to be paying you.
Yeah, maybe they can sponsor me with some hardware or something if I'm gonna work with something. That so if anyone from Beckhoff is watching this, you're of course welcome to sponsor me with some hardware. But the thing is, I still want to be independent because I still want to. If I'm not happy with something, I still want to be able to say this sucks, and I do that quite often. I say, this is not bad. Why is this a bug? Why has this not been translated from German to English?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another big thing for us too, like brand agnostic, like where we're, regardless whatever partnership any company wants to have with us, I don't ever want any of them to like pigeonhole us into like only using one product.
Yeah.
Or also like you said, being able to just give your raw opinion on something.
Yeah,
I think that's super important.
Yeah, exactly. If you pin, then then it removes. Then it's not going to be as fun anymore. And if I only run my YouTube channel because I think it's fun, and if the fun is removed, then I can just I'd rather not.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Jakob, I'm glad to have you today. Glad you joined us.
Thank you very much.
Shared your backstory.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome. Catch you around.
See you.